Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Dose of Desi. This is Udit and my co-host Hassan. We're coming to you live from Northern Virginia, and it's a beautiful evening, autumn night out, and tomorrow's Halloween.
Hello, beautiful people. So excited to be here tonight. Can't believe November is practically here. Time is just flying by. Can you believe that? It's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right? November is
Yeah.
literally one day around the corner. So
Yeah. Well, we are here. We're ready to go. This is our first episode. Let's jump in. I think we really wanted to get started by just first of all explaining what is the Dose of Desi and how this podcast really even started.
That's right. So as you can see, I'm sure you can see our logo by now. There's quite a bit of background information that we wanted to talk about a little bit. So Hassan and I have been friends for quite some time, and we've been actually talking about doing a podcast for honestly years, probably at this point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. So we were actually just hanging out in the Mosaic district here in Northern Virginia, and I don't. Do you remember how it started? It was like we were having a conversation about something, and then one thing led to another, and we were back at that. Let's create a podcast thing.
Yeah, I think it was like you said, we've always wanted to do something like this together, and then I think the idea just came about like doing a podcast because we can just talk about certain topics or something that interests us, and we're trying to figure out exactly like what do we do a podcast about, and then we just realized like why don't we just do exactly what we do anyways in person and just post that online.
Yeah, and honestly it's about posting it online, but it's also about like being able to hear other people's opinions, being able to involve other people in the conversation. So yeah.
And anyway. So to that end, please post in the chat if you're watching live. Like Joel, shout out to Joel, first person ever to post in our chat. Thank you, Joel. You're awesome.
That's right. Hi, Joel.
That's super cool.
I'm like, this is like the first time I'm ever like doing a podcast. So I'm trying to monitor the chat and this. So
yeah, please bear with us, guys. This, like I said, this is our first episode. We are having some technical stuff before this. There's going to be a few little things. It's going to take time to iron things out, but we're just going to have some fun with it. So we hope you all have fun too. That's what it's all about,
Yeah. So I guess let's take it back to the creation of the podcast. Let's talk maybe a little bit about how we came up with the name. Or do you want to do that later? Or do you have any other things to add in terms of the creation of the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think, really it was, we want to talk about different ideas and topics. I think the name really lends itself to what it's about, right? Like, so the Dose of Desi. And so for those that don't know, Desi is a term for like folks from like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, like that kind of, region. And so we're both Desi. I'm from, Pakistan, born in the US. My family's from Pakistan, and Udit, you're from India. And you were born there and came to the US, right?
That's right. Yeah. I was born there and moved here when I was about 11 years old.
Yeah. So we're both, culturally, there's a lot of similarities there. But I also feel like, we both approach things sometimes in different ways. And so it's kind of like bringing that cultural background and just having conversations about things. That was kind of like the framework behind how we're going to approach these topics. But ultimately it's about, the fact that like the two of us are such good friends because we always try and find a common ground amongst things.
Yeah, I would say very much so. I also would add to that. Hassan and I, though we have a common background, it's kind of, I guess it's simple but complicated, right? Simple in that, yeah, we have a common background, but it's complicated because we don't always see eye to eye, but somehow we always find a way to agree, whether that's agree to come to a compromise and see the common ground, like he said, or whether that's just agree to disagree sometimes. And I think that's what really gives our friendship the strength that it does as well. So it's cool to be able to share that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then we tried to come up with a logo that would represent the podcast as well. Did you want to talk about like the inspiration behind like the elements and the colors and that sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's actually kind of funny. Um, I remember I actually have our first sketch of the logo on my screen. I don't know if I can share it right now because of the technical difficulties I was having, but it's literally like, so you can, as you may have seen the logo, it's four pills, right? Um, Essentially the idea that I had was Desi, something Desi. What's something Desi? I mean, the first thing that came to mind is like masala, something spicy, right? Spicy food. So it had to have like a pepper somewhere or some sort of spice or something like that. So that's where the very core, the center of the logo comes from. And then, you know, since it's called the, oh wait, okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I figured I'd pop it up here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, something's happening. So yeah, the very center is that chili pepper, and then the four pills represent the dose, and the colors of that represent both the Pakistani and the Indian flag, because the Pakistani flag is green, the Indian flag is green and red and white, so it all just kind of like comes in there. And I created a very terrible sketch of this, and Hassan actually helped me like refine it and make it look like what it is today. So thanks, man.
Yeah, dude, that's working together to put
That's
this
right.
together. But yeah, that's the inspiration, behind kind of the podcast and the logo. So we're excited to finally be at that point where we can just share that with everyone. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to our creation story. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna discuss a little bit more of some of the topics that we're gonna be talking about. This, like we said, right now it's fairly open ended, but I think as we go along, as we have more of a direction, it might become more focused over time. So at least that's my vision, and I'm guessing you're probably okay with that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think like this is really an introduction episode. Like, we told you what the podcast is about, but like some of you may know who we are if you came from like social media or friends of us, that sort of thing, but there may be new faces out there, and we hope that there are. So we want to really just give a background to who we are and how we met,
Mm-hmm.
and really take the time to establish that before we get into the actual sort of big discussion topics in future episodes.
That's
um
right.
yeah, so why don't we start? I guess we can start with some introductions, as to who we are.
Sure. You wanna start?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Hassan. I am 20 31 years.
So I was like,
I'm
what?
31. I was thinking of the year in my head. I was like 2021. What am I? 31 years old. Getting
I was like,
close
you're definitely
to
not in your 20s
32.
anymore, man.
Yeah, man. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. 30, almost 32 years old in January. And we're both in the Northern Virginia sort of DC metro area. And yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah, and I guess for me, as you may already know by now, my name is Udit. Some people pronounce it Udit because they can't get the U right. It's complicated. It's one of those Desi things that we can talk about at some point. um, but yeah, I'm also in the DC metro area. Hassan and I, although we live a fair amount of distance away from each other, but we're still in Northern Virginia. So um, yeah, I am 33 as of a few days ago.
Yay,
uh,
late happy birthday.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, October baby here. So, and trying to think. Yeah, as Hassan already mentioned, I was born in India, so I immigrated here when I was 11 years old, fairly young, and it's been quite the journey since.
And I'm sure that, I think that will probably be one of the topics we eventually get into, as well as kind of, talking about that background,
Mhm.
which would be interesting. But the two of us really met, I'd say it was around like 2008 or so. So it's been a while, over a decade now, which is pretty crazy. But we met in college, and yeah, so I think it was around 2008. Basically, um, do you want to describe like the job you had, and kind of how I'd come
Sure,
to
sure.
to see you in that environment?
I can try. I can try. It's 2008. What was that, like 13 years ago, right?
Yeah.
13. Wow. Yeah, it's been such a long time. I don't feel like I recognize myself since then. But yeah, 2008. I was attending. Hassan and I were both attending university, and we were at the same university. There was all the universities have this movie program, like with their like activities programming boards and stuff like that. So that was something I was a part of. I was a co-chair of that 1 year and a chair of that another year. I always really enjoyed movies, and that also gave me a chance to like meet all sorts of new people, be silly, and just like I was very energetic back then, like very very energetic, to the point where people thought like I was just high on life. So um, yeah,
Yeah.
at that point, I was doing the movies, and I think Hassan, you started coming to the movies, right, with some of your friends, and uh,
Yeah.
the person I worked with was actually one of Hassan's roommates.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I saw like, oh, free movie screenings, on Fridays or whatever it was, Saturday. I can't remember exactly, and so I was like, oh yeah, let me go check it out. And of course, one of my roommates worked there as well. So then through that, I met you, and I immediately remember, just seeing how much fun he was having with the whole thing, and just all the energy he had. He just seemed like he could just be friendly with everyone, and I was like, oh, this guy's cool. Let me get to know him and stuff. And we kind of kept in touch, and started to hang out, and um that was just kind of the start of this whole friendship right from there.
That's right. Although I have to say, I don't, I don't feel that kind of energy now. I just don't. No, no, I just don't have that kind of energy nowadays. But yeah, and I guess from there we actually ended up being roommates. I don't remember how it like led up to that, but I
Yeah,
think
I think because
you would just come a
I
lot,
was,
right? You would come almost every other
yeah,
weekend.
I would come a lot, and I so my roommates were all like at least a year higher than me, so they were all leaving and graduating and all that. So I needed another roommate for a year, and you did as well. And I remember, since we had started to hang out, and kept in touch and stuff, we're like, well, let's do that. Let's be roommates. And then I mean, that I think that really solidified our friendship from there. Yeah, I would be like recording like videos and stuff in a bedroom, and you'd be like, what is this guy doing? What's going on? Like, and just all sorts of little things that kind of like started all sorts of stuff, from there. We'd go watch movies, hang out, just had a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it was odd at first, but then I was like, wow, this dude's doing big things. Like, like I was like, I've always wanted to do this. That's the weird thing. It's like, Hassan, you talked about how, you loved the energy that I had like was putting out there at that point. But over the years, it's like all the things that you've been doing, I've been inspired by, because I'm like, those are all things that I've thought about doing at some point. Not necessarily about the same, interests or subject areas, but still, like, having seen you like expand your own, your own YouTube channel, your own like podcast and everything like that. It's been quite an inspiration, to be honest. So thanks again for doing this with me.
Thanks, man. Yeah, for sure. This is, I think we both like, I feel like really just mutually just learned from each other and grown over the years, and that's been like super special for sure. But I yeah, I think like starting with being roommates, really solidified it. And I think we also, you introduced me to a bunch of your friends who at the time, we've kept in touch with even since we even recently hung out with and stuff too. Some friends from that university. So there's so many things that started during those times. Our deep conversations, even I think that's where it all originated. Like we'd have these like late night conversations about things and reflect on all sorts of stuff, and that really just started
It's
the beginnings of them.
yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't remember about I don't remember what your thought process was, but basically it was like, you need a roommate, I need a roommate, we're both brown, let's do it. Like brown
Yeah,
people, we get it. Like I don't know, something along those lines.
pretty much. I mean, I think the thing too is like we both had similar values and stuff through that as well. And I think that's, when trying to find a roommate, sometimes, you get those folks that are like, partying all the time and doing crazy, drinking and this, that, whatever. And I think we both were like, we're that's not necessarily our lifestyle, like, we have other
Yeah.
similar values and respect each other. And I think that is kind of what got us together. And
Yeah.
been
I
great.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess I kind of took the more silly route of all that, but
Yeah.
yeah, and also the other thing I wanted to mention, you had totally forgot the thought that I just had. You'd mentioned the late night, like, deep conversations and stuff, and I think a lot of times, we even like saw each other struggle in college, and I think with different areas, whether they be relationships, school, friendships, homesickness, all sorts of things. So I think really like over that time, we really like opened up to each other and trust built that trust, and yeah, that's kind of how we. I think that's my perspective anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's key because that's like, we were only roommates for a year, but even after that, we definitely kept in touch. Because, initially I know you went to go work and you moved to a different state and everything. And so that's sometimes people move apart and they lose touch sometimes, but we made it a point to like always, like Skype or FaceTime basically with each other, check in with each other and continue to share our experiences and kind of have those deep conversations still, even after the fact. So I think like that continued further. um
Yep. This was
uh,
after, so like I'm thinking chronologically. This was after we like left, after we left the university. Oh, it says I'm about to raise my hand. I don't know what just happened there. Um, yeah, I don't know what's happening. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna ignore it. Um, After we left university, we both ended up in Northern Virginia, and then I moved to New York City actually about a year after that, and that's what Hassan was saying. We kept in touch over Skype. He came to visit me. I don't really, was that around Christmas? I think it was around Christmas, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember what we did, but I remember like going out. New York was all like lit
I
up and
remember
everything,
going
and
and wanting to do the touristy things, and you were like, I
oh,
understand how this functions in New York and how to navigate the crowds. I'd always be like, well, hold, how do I getting like caught in all the traffic and stuff, trying to
I
navigate
had
all
like
that.
the I had like the true like New Yorker aggressiveness down by then. I was like, screw everybody. New York sucks. Everybody's everywhere all the time. Let's just get through this.
Especially Christmas time. I mean, that only makes it worse with how many people are there. Like it gets so
Yeah,
packed
yeah. It
for sure.
was yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
that was interesting. Um,
yeah. And then I remember I spent about 2 years there. You came to visit me once. We kept in touch, and then I got homesick at some point. And I said, I don't think New York is for me. And then I made myself a promise. The only time I'd come back to New York was if I either absolutely had to or if I was working for the United Nations. Um, so then yeah, I got homesick. I started looking for stuff, and actually, the place you were working at had an opening, and and I interviewed for it and I got it. So then we ended up working together.
Yeah. So I worked for a private practice in healthcare, and basically, at the time was doing things related to their electronic health record system, kind of the IT side of things, and basically healthcare IT. And yeah, as we had said, like he was looking, to get away from New York. We needed people for the team, and it all just worked out, and so that was cool because after being roommates and then kind of just keeping in touch and all that, we got to see each other all the time at work. And so that really kind of, because then it was cool because I would always share things about my work or people that I worked with, that sort of thing, and now it was like, oh yeah, them too, like they're your friends now, like we're all kind of sharing that experience, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually a lot of fun because I made a lot of, I think, good friendships there, um, through that job. And some people we still see from time to time and catch up with when we get the chance. So yeah, there's nothing like quite like that. Yeah, and then I think after that, the next chapter was basically we parted ways again, but we were working for the same company, just in different places. And then I decided to move. I've always wanted to travel abroad, and I decided to just get out of town. And yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to add about that, from your
um
perspective?
yeah, I mean, I think we of course down the road we can always elaborate on things and other topics as they come up, but I think it was cool to kind of hang out more often and stuff too. I think in some ways, like um as you said, as any friends go, I mean, there's always going to be like the fun moments, and then like the moments that can sometimes like challenge you a bit too, in a way, and like just from working together, that sort of thing. There's we had to kind of really like um talk through a lot of things, and it really kind of I think we were both very open-minded and respectful of each other, and I think that really helped again solidify our friendship even more, because obviously if you see someone every single day pretty much, and especially working and this that, like, and you have different perspectives sometimes on things, there's always like um uh things that you kind of have to talk through and work through, and I think we did, and I think in general we always understood where we came from and were able to work together pretty well. But I think that was a good experience that we went through, um because I think like there was so much to learn from, and just like so much that like really brought us together, I'd say.
Yeah, agreed. Um, before we carry on, I wanted to see. I know there's a couple of people watching. If they had any questions, they wanted to like ask us. Feel free to type it in, and we'll do our best to answer your questions if you have any.
Yeah,
Um,
shout out to Munib as well, who joined in the chat. So welcome Munib.
hey, Manib. Yeah. So now I guess going back to that whole story, and I'll keep my eye on the questions a little bit as well. We have also shared a number of events, right? That we attended. I don't know if you mentioned some already, but one was like your wedding, right? For example, that was pretty fun. Coming up to New York and celebrating that with you, seeing that happen. So I don't know. I think your friendship and my friendship is one of the few ones that I have. With I would say a couple others. I pretty much count most of them on one hand. That are just quite. You see a person go from here to there over so many years, and you get to really just build this fantastic, strong connection and bond with someone. So I
Yeah,
think Joel posted a question. What are some of the similarities and differences between Pakistan and India? You want to address that?
interesting. So I think at a high
You can take the
level,
sim. You want
what's
to
that?
take the similarities, and I'll take the differences, or the other way around?
Sure. So I'd say like, and they're obviously from the same region of the world. I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of I mean, the languages are either very similar, like Hindi and Urdu, and those are some of, Punjabi, like some of the languages that are spoken are very similar or across different across both countries. The clothes, the food. I mean, there's definitely a lot of overlap in that as well. And I'd say a lot of the cultural values are quite
Yeah,
similar too. Um, and we can get into more details down the road, that sort of thing. But I mean, I think like um, there's a lot of like
you want me to?
traditional customs, things like that, that can be quite similar. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Customs and whatnot. I would say in terms of the differences, so even though the languages are quite similar in the spoken word, the way they're written out are totally different. And also, yeah, right. Is Urdu written forwards or backwards? Because I know
To be honest, I
some.
don't know how to read or write it. I know how to speak it. I just so that I that's a great question.
Okay,
Um,
okay, yeah. No, it's just something to
and
think
see,
about.
this is one of the differences too, because I like being born in the US versus that. I just didn't have that exposure as much um to that, at least me personally.
Gotcha. I mean, I grew up, learning Hindi, so I had to like
Mhm.
write it out, and they had they had corporal punishment back in the day when I was still in India, so it was rough. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's one of the differences. I would say I would say culturally, although there are a lot of similarities on a religious level, there are certain differences in what people believe. What else? There are similarities, tons of similarities in food, but what they might be called is different. Like, what
Yeah,
you might
that's
call
true.
things, like we call it chana masala, you call it kabuli chana. Like, I don't know how similar, or different that is. But um yeah, anything else? I know geographically speaking, obviously there's difference there. They're two different
Yeah.
countries, but they're right next to each other. Um,
I mean, those
yeah,
are
that's what
definitely,
I
I
can
think
think of.
the high points for sure. There's of course going to be so many little details, to that, but I think yeah, at its core, they're quite similar, but there are differences like that for sure.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
and also Joel mentioned that he'll always remember your wedding because you got married on his birthday. So that's fun.
Yeah. So to kind of get to that, because like you were saying, there's lots of events that we've kind of gone through together and done together. It was cool getting to share some of that because of the fact that like you said, we've known each other since 2008, and so you've known me from before when I was also much more reserved and just kind of unsure of myself, too, and trying to figure out like what I wanted to do and going through all sorts of change my career path as well. And then ultimately, to finding my wife Maheen and getting married. So it was super exciting to like be able to share that because you're one of the few people that have seen me from way before to now. So Maheen's from New York, so our wedding was in New York. So we had to went up there um and celebrated that occasion, and it was truly special. 5 years ago, that also kind of blows my mind about how long ago that was now at this point.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
September, it was 5 years ago. Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty wild. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. So in contrast, like I am not married. I have been single for most of my life. um, Not all my life, but most of it. But yeah, so that gives you another unique perspective that we can come from, at least for the time being. So yeah, let's see. What else did we? What else? We went to? Didn't we go to didn't we go to Comic Con in New York?
No, I wanted to go, but I didn't. We went to, so there was something similar on a smaller scale called Awesome
Oh
Con. It
wait,
was in
yeah, yeah,
DC.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we share, some similarities of, in terms of, we both like, watching like certain entertainment movies and shows and all that kind of fun stuff. There's, of course we both have some differences in what we like, but I think like going to like a comic type convention, I had been before and I was like, let's go this year and check it out. And yeah, we went to Awesome Con in DC,
That's
and
right.
we met some folks from Agents of Shield. We met Michael Rooker, who was Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy.
We
We
did.
wanted to meet the guy who played Neville Longbottom and just even say hi, but they wouldn't even let us say hi. They're like $50 for a photo. We're like, we just want to say hi.
Wait,
They're like, no. I was like,
I
oh,
don't even remember
fine.
him being there. Man, you have a good memory. Like I even got my New York Comic Con stuff mixed up because I remember going to New York Comic Con, and I thought for some reason I thought you were there, but you're right. It was in DC that we went to, not the other one. Yeah, I do remember meeting Michael Rooker. He had quite a personality. He was
Yeah.
pretty lively. Also, I was laughing at Joel's comment. Hey man, join the club. I'm 27, still single, no children. So yeah, man, 27 is the new like 22 now. So
Yeah,
welcome
man.
to the club, right? Anyway, yeah, we went to Awesome Con. We also went to, you organized a convention, right? Pentacon.
That's right.
And you invited me out, and I was just dying to get out of town and be like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Like,
Yeah, I think exactly. I think you were like, let's go on a trip somewhere. Let's do something. And I was like, I mean, I've been planning this thing in Dallas, Texas, this convention for fans of Pentatonic called Pentacon. And I was like, why don't you check it out? You knew nothing about Pentatonics at the time either. But I think you just wanted to just go hang out and see what was going on. And that was another cool thing because got to share and make like kind of some more common friends amongst us as well. So that was I'm sure a pretty unique perspective from your end, going into it being like, I don't know what's going on, and traveling to another state just for this whole thing.
yeah, it was interesting. I mean, like I enjoyed it, honestly. I will say a lot of the like fans that were there were, really friendly, really cool people, very welcoming. Like I mean, I didn't, I know of Pentatonics, but I didn't know like all that much. So yeah, I felt very much like a part of the crew, at least, while I was there. And I think I still know some of the people there, keep in touch with them through you mostly, but yeah, so that was another one. And then
Yeah.
we went to a Pentatonics concert in Allentown.
Yeah. Allentown, Pennsylvania. That was cool. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't have the greatest seats, and it was like pouring rain and all that stuff. So it wasn't the greatest circumstance, but it was still fun because there's a lot of folks even that went to Pentacon and otherwise that were there. And it was just an example of another road trip, that we were able to kind of take together and go experience. And the cool thing is, like, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is there's actually like footage and stuff out there on different YouTube channels, whether mine or the Pentacon one or different things. So you can actually like physically go and see our experiences together as well, which
Yeah,
is kind of cool.
mostly all yours, because like I said, I've wanted to do this for years, but haven't had the courage or haven't had the like know-how or yeah, whatever. Just yeah. So more power to you on that. Now, lastly, the one other thing that I wanted to mention was the one chip challenge, which we did about actually almost exactly 2 years ago, right around.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was fun. Looking back at it, it was fun. Doing it was terrible. So
Yeah, that was oh god, it was just nasty, man. That chip just didn't taste good. It was nasty. You don't want to know what happened afterwards. It was just uh it was interesting. I don't know how
I remember
people do that.
I remember you coming to me and you're like, "Yeah, I got these chips. Like, you wanna like record this thing with me?" I'm like, nah, man, spicy food's not my thing. That's your thing. Like, and then like, I don't know, like somehow like I agreed to it. I don't remember exactly how, because I have a terrible long-term memory. But yeah, I agreed to it. And then I remember you coming over to my house, like setting everything up. And instead of like real milk, all I had at my house at the time was like almond milk, I think.
Yep.
That's what we like, went after the whole spice thing. And I remember your tolerance for spice is way higher than mine is. So I remember like I didn't even eat the whole chip. I ate a small part of the chip. I put it in my mouth, and 30 seconds later, I was hiccuping like crazy. And whereas you were like, I'm gonna get through this. And I was like, how is this dude doing this?
Yeah,
like,
you started hiccuping, and I get freaked out for a second because you look like you almost couldn't breathe, and then pretty much like you stepped out of the video and are like panicking, trying, and I'm just there like, I can do it, maybe, I don't know.
He's
I
like,
think it really hit me later. I definitely felt it
yeah,
later.
there was that hourglass, and you were just like sticking to it, and I was like, screw this, like forget this, I am not doing this. I remember about 30 seconds I was hiccuping. About a minute and a half later, I was pacing around the house, and I was like, no, what did I just do?
Oh my god, yeah. Joel in the chat's asking like about that. So about, he's like, you guys are drinking milk and eating ice cream. Wasn't that the hot wings? That was actually a separate challenge I did with actually someone else that we both know. But this was the one chip challenge by the company Pocky. So that was something that we did. It's just literally one chip that you eat, and it was interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to look back at. At the time, it was a terrible decision, but now it's like, yeah. And the video's out there. I think it's on Hassan's channel somewhere.
Yeah.
So
we've gone through some interesting adventures, over the years. It's been interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's just been kind of cool to share a lot of that with each other. And like I said, like it's, we do have some similar values, similar things, but we do approach things in a lot of different ways as well. And I think that's been cool to see our growth over the years too. At least like, just between you and I, like it's, that's one of the things that I have appreciated about our friendship, as well as is being able to just really be open with each other and share that.
Yeah, I agree. I think in a similar but different way, that's going to be like a common theme of this podcast. Similar but different. We got to come up with like a shorter word for that. Basically, yeah, I think I already mentioned, the way I've seen you grow over the years, from, being more introverted back in college to someone who really pushes himself out of his comfort zone over the years. And I don't know, I think you, because you were so introverted, you would like never really talked about it necessarily, but seeing that like happen in real life, it's been, it's been kind of cool, inspirational, rewarding. Yeah, all the way from university, school, work, marriage to now, kids and everything. Yeah, it's been cool to witness.
Thanks, man. No, I mean, like, yeah, I think part of it is I was a lot more introverted, and I didn't like share a lot of my like, personal thoughts and stuff. And I think, at least to me initially, you seem more comfortable at least talking to me about that sort of thing. And I think that encouraged me to, like, we would have conversations. You'd be like, well, what do you think about this? Or what are your thoughts on this? And it made me like really think about it. And I think like I felt really comfortable around you because you didn't judge anything. We're always very respectful too. So I could kind of open up a bit more, and that sort of helped me grow into being able to like be more in tune with my, like sharing at least my thoughts and stuff too over the years. So It's always been nice to kind of come to you and just share things and get advice. And I think I really learned from how you interacted with people and kind of took that and it sort of made me more comfortable with sharing things too.
Thanks, man. It's funny. It's like now the tables have turned. If you
But
just go
I
back.
think, yeah, I think that's what really is cool, because I think the fact that we can really almost like feed off of each other and do that, right? Like I think um any good friendship is, you're gonna have different perspectives, and you're gonna sometimes like butt heads a little and stuff too, but like you learn from that and like kind of um right, like at least for me it was like trying to understand your perspective and how I could learn from that and grow in my experiences, and maybe vice versa. But I think like that's part of why I think we have such deep conversations about topics, is because I don't know about you, but I always kind of come away from it like thinking like and it gives me new ways of thinking of things. And we figure that might be something cool to share with people as well. Maybe we'll get other perspectives from people in the chat too, as we talk about topics.
Yeah, I agree. I think it helps for me personally. It helps me refine my ideas and helps me realize I guess it's a part of maturity too, but it helps me realize how little I know, to be completely honest. Like how limited my perspective is. Not to put myself down or anything. Like I have something to offer, but you know, being able to have some of these conversations, you realize, okay, you really don't know that. Like me personally, right? Like you go home, you have this deep conversation, you go home and you think to yourself, wow, like you really don't know all that much, and you really kind of like humble yourself a little bit. So I like that aspect of it too, just because it keeps me moving forward. It like reminds me that there's much more to learn, that there's much more to this whole journey than we may realize sometimes. But anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great way of putting it. And I think that's ultimately that's our background as to who we are, our friendship, and how this whole podcast started. From our initial friendship many years ago to then wanting to share like our perspectives with the world. So we hope you enjoyed that background behind everything. And we'd love to hear from you as well. I know some of you have been posting in the chat, but in the chat, like we'd love for you to please take a moment and maybe share your ideas for any potential topics that you would like us to discuss in future episodes as well. Something that we can really delve into deeper, not just like a surface level conversation, but interesting topics that we can really offer our perspectives and have you offer your perspectives in the chat as well.
Speaking of the chat, Joel mentioned that it's very hard to find true friends that you can trust these days. I respect and admire how strong y'all's bond is. Thanks, man. Yeah, I agree. And like I said earlier, I think some of the closest friendships that I have, I could probably count them on either one or both of my hands. So yeah, I mean, I guess actually, can I just mention one other thing? Going back to college, I remember since I was so involved and energetic and everything, everybody was my friend, right? I remember that. And I think, I know initially you said like, that's something that inspired you. But for me, looking back at that, man, I've come a long way. Like, I had like thousands of friends on Facebook or something, whereas right now I do not do social media. Like it stresses me out. So yeah, I don't know. It's just I agree with what Joel said. I think as I've grown and matured, I've realized that true friendships are hard to come by. People, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I think the people who stuck by my side and really learned to forgive me for some of those mistakes are the ones I really stick by. And I know you've done that for me plenty of times, including a couple other people, but yeah, so thank you.
Oh, man.
Thank
Likewise,
you.
likewise. I think that's the cool part of it. Like you said, like maybe, you had so many friends, and then you kind of realize kind of the friends, the true friends you wanted to have. And sort of from my end, it was like, I just was so kind of closed off sometimes and introverted that I didn't share too much, and I didn't really make those real connections. So I couldn't have those sort of truer friendships. And so that kind of got me to a point where I could. I think we both kind of found that like healthy balance in a way of you keep like a good solid group of close friends. And then yeah, of course people have lots of acquaintances as well, but I think that's where it really got solidified.
Right. Um,
Uh,
yeah. Anyway, I think you'd asked for other ideas, right?
yeah. In the chat, if anyone has ideas for things that they wanted to talk about, and then of course we can, maybe tease things as well for the future.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think as an example, we want to add a quick tease for our next episode, which is about well, it's about discomfort and growth, but it's more specifically what we want to talk about that ties into discomfort and growth. So I know earlier we mentioned about like immigration. I immigrated here. Hassan was born here. Um, so I guess part of what we want to discuss the next episode is how for Hassan growing up in the U.S. has shaped his life, and growing up in India and then moving here shaped my life, uh, and our life trajectories until now. So, and just share our unique and challenging, rewarding experiences, and also hear from you about that. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that for now. I think we're still refining the idea of what we want to add into that and all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, this is going to be very like fluid type of thing. We'll have certain outlines of topics and things, but I think we just want to jump into it, and of course hear from you all in the chat. Maybe that might help guide some of the conversations too. I already see some suggestions in the chat for, thank you all for posting that. We'll read up on them, and see how we may or may not kind of incorporate into different topics, and do that. So we appreciate the feedback for sure.
Yeah, I see too. I also really like the pandemic one though, just because that's been all of our lives for the last almost 2 years now. So definitely have to bring that up sometime.
Very true. Very true. So yeah, we appreciate all the feedback. And in case you have any questions or comments afterwards, or if you're watching this later, we want to give our social media as well for you to reach out, because we're always, open to receiving any of that feedback and conversation as well. So our Twitter handle is at the Dose of Desi. And then our email is the Dose of Desi pod@gmail.com. We had to add the pod in there because it wasn't available otherwise, but the Dose of Desi pod@gmail.com. And also, make sure you're subscribed to this channel as well to be notified of our next episode. We'll post it ahead of time on social media, but that'll help you know what's coming up. We have some interesting topics lined up, and we're also exploring some potential guests maybe to join us in the future. So it won't just be the two of us all the time. So I hope you're very excited about that. Anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
Not particularly. I think I hope you all enjoyed it. If you another thing is, the last thing I would say is, if you have any ideas about guests or people or type of people, I mean, you may not know who we know or whatever, but types of people, types of stories that you would want to have guests for, we're open to suggestions for the time being. Excited to do this again. And I think, did you already mention we'll have, I guess, the next date and everything figured out, and we'll post that on our social media?
Yes, that will be posted on social media and everything. Just to quickly answer Joel's question, because I think that's important in terms of the cadence of episodes as well. He's asking, will the podcast be weekly or how often? I think we'll adjust and see how it goes. I think right now we're thinking roughly every like 3 to 4 weeks or so, just to kind of see. Obviously, depending on schedules, it might kind of go up or down, that sort of thing. But it's not going to be weekly, basically, just because of schedules and trying to manage all that. But we will be regularly talking to you all and hanging out.
I'm trying to convince Hassan to do it bi-weekly, but I don't know if we'll ever get there or not.
I got a 1 year old, so it makes it a little
Yeah.
tough, you know. But I definitely love this. This has been, a great start. We're just getting started. This is just the beginning. So there's a lot of exciting things ahead. Um, so yeah, with
Thank
that
you,
being
Joel.
said, yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Joel.
you, Joel, for
I
that.
know I
And
know he said he'll be here regardless. So thanks for supporting us. And yeah, last thing, as time goes on, we will adjust. And right now it's 3 to 4 weeks, but depending on how things launch and whatnot, we'll readjust. And if I can get Hassan to agree on the frequency.
yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about
All
it.
right, all right.
But yeah, thank you all so much as always for watching. Truly appreciate it. Take care, and we'll see you next time. We'll end with a cool little outro that we both we enjoyed this little musical choice and putting this together. So we'll end with that. But thank you all so
Thanks
much.
so much. Thank you.